All right, welcome to our latest Swampcast. We're going to preview the Florida-South Carolina game. Pat Dooley, Robbie Andrew of the Gainesville Sun. And Robbie, it's kind of hard to know who to pick in this game because we're still not sure who's going to play and who's going to play a lot and who's going to play 100%.
No, Lattimore, we're not sure about. Marcus Lattimore, bruised hip. He may play, he may not. He may play in a limited role. We don't know that. Then Florida, the injuries on the offensive line. Will Muschamp says they're all back, supposedly, but you're not going to know till game time.
Yeah, I know, for example, James Wilson had couldn't open his eye on Monday, and he's been cleared to practice. Xavier Nixon's got concussion issues that he's dealing with. So you really don't know because they aren't always forthcoming.
Yeah, and Jalapeno, the elbow, Pat. We heard that.
No, Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison. I'm sorry. Had the elbow issue, and he looked okay on the sidelines, but dislocated. Who knows?
You don't know. So you don't know about that. You don't know whether, as you mentioned, Lattimore, how much they're going to play. Is this a smoke screen Spurrier sending out?
A lot of people are thinking that, but I don't know.
You just never know. And then you also have
the flu issue.
The flu issue that they have with Ace Sanders and some of those guys. So, we don't know whether some of this. I mean, the interesting thing is, out of the clear blue on Wednesday, Spurrier called me and wanted to talk about,
He's
strategy and
stuff going on here.
I didn't tell him anything. Gator fans can't blame me, but. But he said, we're going to have to throw the ball more. We got to be able to throw it. He basically said, I may bench Connor Shaw if he doesn't throw it when we tell him to throw it. He's going to Terry Dean him.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's coming in here to air it out a little bit because they couldn't run the ball against LSU.
And when he saw that, so he had to.
At the end,
they had to throw the ball, and so I think he figures like Florida's going to run the same strategy, contain the run and try to contain Shaw, but don't. The key is going to be, do they get the passing game going? These are two teams, and this is what I wrote for Saturday, that don't throw it a whole lot. No. It's funny to think of Spurrier back in the SEC now. His last team at Florida led the NCAA in passing.
I know.
And now he can't. They can't generate a lot of passing. Florida, the second halves of the last two games, 30 yards of passing.
Unbelievable. And both teams now they run the ball, play defense, special teams. And, I think Florida can throw the ball, but we're just not seeing. I think South Carolina can be very good throwing the ball, but they don't do much of it either. So.
No, and I think you're right. I think Florida can throw it, but they're not. One thing I talked to Will about on Wednesday, and he said, look, when it happens, it'll happen. But it's not going to happen before it's ready to happen.
No, they're not going to force it.
Yeah, they're not going to force it.
Peace says, if I've got a quarterback running for 177 yards, I'm not going to feel bad about not throwing the ball. So.
Right, absolutely. So it'll be an interesting game. Certainly it'll be electric atmosphere again. Game day's here. CBS is here. You're here. I'll be there. And it's just going to be it'll be another fun day. I think just the pregame.
Yeah, it's great to have the atmosphere back here. And that game day is there. They're building it. It looks great. It's going to be just a fun weekend with a huge game and electricity in the swamp.
Right. I think one thing that should concern you if you're a Florida fan, South Carolina is a little more desperate. They're coming to this game knowing if they lose it, they're pretty much out of the East.
Yeah.
They've got to win this game. Florida can lose, beat Georgia, hope that something happens with South Carolina. They've got Tennessee and Arkansas left. And I'll tell you, both those teams could beat South Carolina.
They definitely could. But the thing with South Carolina, if they do win, they've got the tiebreaker edge on Florida, Georgia, which is huge, really.
It is. They'd have to lose two. Florida would have to beat Georgia and Missouri. But don't get me wrong, it's a huge game for Florida. I think it's a little bit bigger for South Carolina just because of that loss to LSU. But in the end, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, I'm picking Florida in a close game, but I may change that on game day because Jerry Spurrier gives me a feel for this game every time I go to the Swamp. In 2008, she came and gave me a hug, and she was shaking. Like, she didn't feel confident at all.
Right.
2 years ago, she came up with smiling, all happy, because I think Steve had told her we're going to win this game. And
he was right.
Happened. So
that was a blowout.
To me, she's the barometer.
Well, make sure
Jerry,
well, what you ought to do is see Jerry,
pick her brain a little bit.
Pick her brain, and then we'll go to Vegas.
Yeah, okay. It's a sure thing.
And bet on the game. All right, we'll be back. Next time we'll come back to you. Of course, we'll be at the Swamp, and we'll tell you what we thought of the Florida-South Carolina game. We look forward to that as well. Hope to see you at the Swamp at some point. Until then, Pat Dooley, Robbie Andrew of the Gainesville Sun saying so long from the Sunshine State.